A kid who grew up in a two-room Bronx apartment, shining shoes for pocket change, would one day be worth $7 billion. Not by inheriting wealth, not by marrying into it, but by inventing a version of American luxury that never actually existed. Ralph Lauren didn't come from old money or Ivy League prestige. He came from a household earning $3,000 a year. Yet he built the most powerful aspirational brand on earth by selling a dream he'd only ever imagined. And that story begins in a place no one would ever associate with luxury. Ralph Lifshitz grew up in a two-room apartment at 267 Murray Avenue, tucked into the immigrant patchwork of the Bronx's East 149th Street. The Lifshitz family, observant Jews from Eastern Europe, lived on Frank's modest income as a fur dealer's assistant, about $3,000 a year in the 1940s. That sum stretched to cover 4 children, kosher groceries, and the cost of sending Ralph and his siblings to a neighborhood yeshiva after public school. Their apartment, crowded and worn, doubled as both home and workshop, with Frida managing daily life from a narrow kitchen where holiday meals were assembled on borrowed chairs. On Saturdays, Ralph would ride the streetcar to the Bronx Zoo, or save his change for a matinee at the local theater. He watched old Hollywood films, transfixed by the way the wealthy lived, silk gowns, tailored suits, and the easy confidence of people who seemed to belong everywhere. For a boy whose world was measured in street corners and subway tokens, these images were more than entertainment. They were blueprints for a life he wanted but could not touch. Even as a child, Ralph paid close attention to the language of status. He noticed the crispness of a neighbor's shirt, the shine on a banker's shoes, the quiet authority of a man in a well-made suit. At 12, he started delivering newspapers and shining shoes in a barber shop, pocketing quarters and nickels. After months of saving, he bought his first second-hand suit, a faded jacket that, for all its flaws, made him feel transformed. "I wanted to look like someone," he would later say, "not just another kid from the block." The Bronx in those years was a city of striving. Immigrant families stacked dreams on top of one another, hoping that hard work and small sacrifices would add up to something more. Ralph's early jobs, delivering papers, running errands, shining shoes, were not just about money. They were about glimpsing another world, one where style was a kind of passport. He began stitching neckties from scraps found in the attic, selling them to classmates with a promise: you can wear a tie without looking like a kid. In these small acts, Ralph learned the power of reinvention. He saw that clothing could signal belonging, that a carefully chosen detail might open doors otherwise closed. Long before he had the means to buy luxury, he was already studying its codes, turning scarcity into imagination, and imagination into ambition. At 17, Ralph Lifshitz entered a Bronx courthouse and left with a new name. On June 16, 1956, the petition was granted: Ralph Lauren. The choice was strategic, short, refined, and free from the mockery that had clung to his old surname. In the Bronx, a name could be a shield or a target. Lauren wanted one that belonged on a tie label, one that could slip into the world he imagined beyond his neighborhood. His brother Jerry changed his name too, a quiet pact between siblings aiming for something larger. The decision cut deeper than paperwork. At home, his mother Frida mourned the loss of their family's history, while his father Frank understood the necessity. In post-war New York, survival often meant adaptation. For Ralph, the new name was both a tool and a promise, a way to step past the boundaries of his upbringing, carrying its lessons, but not its limitations. After high school, Ralph enrolled at Baruch College, hoping business classes might open doors. The reality was less inspiring. By his second year, he left, drawn instead to the city's pulse and the possibilities of retail. In 1962, he became a sales assistant at Brooks Brothers. The store was a living museum of old money style. Harris tweeds, navy blazers, customers who expected quiet authority. Ralph watched how a salesman's gesture could close a sale, how fabric and fit could signal belonging. He learned to read customers and merchandise with equal care, absorbing the rituals of service and the logic of display. In 1960, Lauren enlisted in the U.S. Army. Assigned to the clothing supply unit, he handled uniforms and saw how garments could shape identity and command respect. The Army ran on discipline, codes, and standards. Ralph filled notebooks with sketches, hunting jackets, polo shirts, equestrian details, symbols of a world he studied from the outside. Military service sharpened his eye for detail and instilled habits that would serve him in business. By his mid-20s, Ralph Lauren had built a toolkit, a name that opened doors, the discipline of military life, and the practical skills of a retailer. He carried a private playbook of aspiration, ready to challenge the conventions of American menswear and build something entirely his own. A narrow drawer tucked inside a bustling showroom on the 16th floor of the Empire State Building became Ralph Lauren's first headquarters. In 1966, after being told his ideas for wider, bolder ties did not fit the market, Lauren struck a deal. He could rent a single drawer to display his own designs as long as he also pushed the manufacturer's standard lines. That drawer was all he could afford. A sliver of retail space, not a showroom, not even a shelf. But it was enough. Lauren filled it with his polo ties, hand-finished, cut wider than anything else in the city. Stitched from silk and cotton he sourced himself. Each one cost him $6 or $7 to make, material and labor combined, more than most ties retailed for at the time. He convinced Buddy Blake, a trusted tie maker in the garment district, to sew the first batches by hand, promising steady work if the ties sold. Lauren's mother and sister sewed the polo labels into each tie at home, working late so he could deliver fresh stock in the morning. He arranged the ties in the drawer with care, each one laid out as if it belonged in a Fifth Avenue window, not a borrowed corner of a crowded showroom. Lauren hustled, pitching his vision to anyone who opened that drawer, a vision of American elegance, not just another necktie. He had no advertising budget, no staff, no storefront, just a drawer, a box of ties, and the nerve to believe that was enough to start. In that cramped space, Lauren turned rejection into a foothold, carving out a place for his dream in the center of Manhattan's fashion world. A department store buyer at Bloomingdale's paused over a box of ties wider and bolder than anything on the floor. He placed an order for 300, agreeing to pay on net 30 terms, a handshake that carried more weight than any ad campaign. At $15 to $28 each, these ties cost double the going rate. But Lauren's confidence in his vision was unwavering. The order was more than a sale. It was a signal that his idea could stand on its own, that a boy from the Bronx could set the tone for Park Avenue. To fulfill the order, Lauren needed capital. He turned to a circle of family friends and a sympathetic banker, securing $50,000 in a loan at a 9% interest rate. The agreement was simple but strict. Most of the loan had to be repaid within 7 months, using the proceeds from department store receivables as collateral. He signed the papers himself, risking everything for a chance to scale up. The ties were sewn in small batches by Buddy Blake's shop on 27th Street, each one finished by hand and labeled at home by Lauren's mother and sister. Lauren delivered the first shipment himself, walking the boxes up to Bloomingdale's mezzanine and laying them out for the buyer's inspection. Every detail mattered. the silk, the cut, the way the ties caught the light under store lamps. Within 7 months, the loan was paid back in full. The Bloomingdale's order led to more, and soon Lauren was balancing new contracts, growing inventory, and the quiet thrill of seeing his name, his new name, on a product that no longer needed introduction. The leap from a single drawer to a scalable business had begun, fueled by belief, borrowed money, and the validation of a single, well-placed order. In 1974, Ralph Lauren's designs stepped onto a much grander stage. The Great Gatsby, one of the year's most anticipated films, called for a wardrobe that could capture the opulence and longing of F. Scott Fitzgerald's world. Lauren was brought in as a costume consultant, but what he delivered went far beyond a few well-tailored suits. His signature pink three-piece suit for Robert Redford's Gatsby became an instant icon, a garment that seemed to channel both jazz-age fantasy and modern American ambition. Lauren's team supplied a full run of tuxedos, shirts, and accessories, each piece crafted with an eye for the kind of understated luxury he'd studied since childhood. Paramount's press machine seized on the collaboration. Newspaper headlines and glossy magazine spreads credited Ralph Lauren by name, linking his brand to the film's vision of old money glamour. The studio's promotional campaign sent out tens of thousands of press releases, and lifestyle editors across the country began to treat Lauren not just as a designer, but as the new tastemaker of American elegance. Tie sales jumped by 30% in the weeks after the premiere. Variety and Women's Wear Daily ran features on the Gatsby look, and department stores from coast to coast scrambled to stock Lauren's pieces. The Great Gatsby delivered something money couldn't buy: national exposure woven into the fabric of a cultural event. For millions of moviegoers, Ralph Lauren's name became synonymous with a dream of status and style. Without spending a dime on traditional advertising, he watched as his brand became a household word, setting the stage for the next chapter, when a simple logo would turn aspiration into a global signal. In 1971, a simple stitched emblem, a polo player on horseback, first appeared on the chest of a men's shirt. Ralph Lauren had chosen the image with care. Polo was not just a sport, it was a symbol of privilege, leisure, and old-world confidence. By placing the logo in plain sight, Lauren turned every customer into a walking advertisement, each shirt broadcasting a silent message about taste and aspiration. The emblem was more than decoration, it was a code. In a crowded office or across a city street, the logo offered instant recognition, a handshake among strangers who shared the same dream of belonging. Lauren understood that visibility equals credibility. A logo on the left chest made the brand legible at a glance, transforming the act of wearing a shirt into an act of self-definition. This was not accidental. The logo's placement, close to the heart and visible above a blazer or sweater, created a loop of recognition. One customer's purchase validated another's, and the effect multiplied. The emblem became a shortcut to status, a way for buyers to signal their place in a world of imagined elegance, even if their roots were as humble as Lauren's own. By 1972, the logo had moved from shirts to sweaters, jackets, and accessories, always occupying the same visible spot. The strategy worked. Department stores reported that shoppers asked for the shirt with the horseman, not just for the fit or fabric. The logo had become the foundation of the brand's equity, a small figure on a patch quietly rewriting the rules of American luxury. By the early 1970s, Ralph Lauren never saw his brand as limited to menswear. He was already thinking in systems, a world of products, not just a line of clothes. In 1972, he launched his first women's collection. The move was calculated. American women, he believed, wanted more than fashion. They wanted a story to wear. The collection featured crisp shirts and tailored blazers, echoing the codes of Ivy League style, but recast for a new audience. Department stores responded with enthusiasm, and the Polo Player logo, once stitched on men's shirts, began appearing on women's wear too. That same year, Lauren secured licensing deals with manufacturers who could translate his vision into belts, handbags, and other accessories, each paying a fee to use the Polo name and mark. But Lauren's ambitions stretched beyond the closet. In 1978, he entered fragrance, partnering with cosmetics giant Warner Lauren Limited. The first scent, called Lauren, was followed by Polo for men. Both bottles carried the logo and the promise of a lifestyle. The licensing structure was clear. Lauren set the creative direction, while partners handled production, distribution, and retail. Royalties flowed in, fueling further expansion. By 1983, the brand's reach extended into home. The Ralph Lauren Home Collection debuted with bedding, towels, and china, all designed to evoke the same patrician ease found in his clothing. Lauren's world now included living rooms and dining tables, not just wardrobes. Each new category multiplied revenue streams and reinforced the core idea. Owning a piece of Polo meant buying into an American dream, meticulously engineered and endlessly scalable. With every extension, Lauren proved that aspiration could be built, licensed, and lived in, one product at a time. On July 14, 1997, Polo Ralph Lauren shares began trading on the New York Stock Exchange. The offering price, $16 per share, was more than a number. It was a public declaration that a dream born in a Bronx apartment could now be measured on Wall Street. The company placed nearly 48 million shares, raising $767 million after fees. That year, Polo Ralph Lauren's net sales reached $1.5 billion. The valuation on opening day hovered near $4.8 billion, an astonishing leap for a business that had started with a single drawer of ties. At the moment of the IPO, the company's reach was unmistakable. Polo boutiques, Lauren shops, and licensed corners filled department stores from New York to Tokyo. The global retail network counted more than 285 stores, with new locations opening in London, Paris, and Hong Kong. The Polo Player logo, once stitched by hand in a Bronx kitchen, had become a global currency, instantly recognized in over 50 countries. Licensing agreements for fragrances, eyewear, and home goods multiplied the brand's footprint, each new product reinforcing the vision of a complete lifestyle. For Ralph Lauren himself, the public offering was both a financial and symbolic summit. Analysts estimated his personal fortune at $7 billion, making him one of the wealthiest self-made men in American history. The IPO was not just a payday, it was the moment when the world finally acknowledged the value of the world he had imagined. Investors, customers, and competitors now had to reckon with the fact that Lauren's great invention was not simply clothing, but a fantasy of American luxury that could be bought, sold, and scaled to nearly any size. The boy from the Bronx had built a new aristocracy, one you could enter with the swipe of a credit card. Today, the myth Ralph Lauren built still shapes how we see American luxury. His empire proves that branding can conjure status from pure imagination. No inheritance required. In an era where aspiration drives entire industries, Lauren's greatest creation isn't a garment, but a blueprint for reinvention. The line between reality and the dream he sold grows thinner every season. What dream will we buy into next? Share your thoughts. below.